My name is Roxanna Altholz. I'm the director of the Human Rights Clinic at UC Berkeley Law, and I'm a clinical professor of law.
Okay, very good. Tell me a little bit about this subpoena that Rodney Scott issued, and let's start with what medical records was he seeking and what did he get?
So Rodney Scott signed an administrative subpoena that allowed Border Patrol's critical incidents teams to intervene and interfere with the investigation of the killing of Anastasio Hernández-Rojas. That administrative subpoena is part of a broader issue, a broader problem that the Border Patrol was investigating its own without congressional authority. The subpoena was to obtain medical records related to Anastasio's hospitalization. He was beaten so severely by Border Patrol, by border agents, and had suffered massive injuries. He had a heart attack um, um, and was forced into a coma. So the point of the subpoena was to obtain medical records related to those injuries. Um, the police, local police, San Diego police, that had jurisdiction to investigate, requested those health records, and Border Patrol, under um, Scott's authority, refused to hand them over.
Okay, because I had seen some reports that he was requesting the autopsy, but these were specifically medical records from the hospital, the Chula Vista Hospital. Is that right?
The reality is, we do not have a copy of the administrative subpoena. Yesterday, we heard during his confirmation hearing, Scott finally admit that he signed the administrative subpoena. Um, uh, Senator Wyden has requested information related to Scott's interference with the investigation of Anastasio's death, but we don't have a copy of the subpoena. So I cannot um, confirm what he was requesting.
What are the concerns about the Border Patrol, who, as you say, didn't have jurisdiction to investigate this death? What are the concerns that the Border Patrol was seeking this information about the type of injuries that Mr. Rojas suffered?
Border Patrol should not intervene in the criminal investigation of serious injuries and death. Border Patrol doesn't have congressional authority to collect evidence or to intervene in those investigations. And yesterday, the Inter-American Commission ruled that that intervention is a violation of international human rights standards, that instructs states, that require states, obligate states, in cases of extrajudicial killings, to investigate in an independent and impartial manner. The concern is, the issue is, the problem is that Border Patrol is not an impartial agency and should not be investigating its own in these cases. I think it's very important to understand the subpoena in relation to the broader pattern or practice of intervention. If we just focus on the subpoena, we lose the fact that Border Patrol was interfering with a criminal investigation. They should have not requested health records. They should have not arrived before the police to the scene of the crime. They should have not dispersed witnesses. They should have not collected the taser darts. They should have not visited the hospital. They should have not been present during the testimonies of agents that were involved in the incident. They had no congressional authority to interfere with the investigation. And as a result of their interference, yesterday was the first time that we have an impartial and independent body make a ruling and establish exactly what happened on the night that Anastasio Hernández was killed. They perverted the entire investigation. They contaminated the entire investigation because of their unauthorized interventions.
Couldn't San Diego police just subpoena the records themselves? Couldn't they have gone to a judge and gotten those records? What's the big deal that he never turned them over to San Diego police?
I think the fact that the records were not turned over to San Diego police reveals that the intention of subpoenaing the records was not to investigate impartially and independently what happened to Anastasio. If the point of subpoenaing, of issuing an administrative subpoena was to assist in the investigation, those records should have been immediately turned over to the police investigators, to the detectives. But again, it's important to see the administrative subpoena in the context of the broader pattern. So CBP refused to turn over the health records. They also refused for weeks, despite a request from the detectives, to turn over video footage of the incident. And when they finally did turn over video footage, they turned over the wrong video footage. And then, coincidentally, from their view, they taped over the right video footage. So again, I think it's really important to see the administrative subpoena as part of this pattern of obstruction. My concern is that Rodney Scott has participated in efforts to cover up agents' role, the agent's role in the death of Anastasio Hernández-Rojas. That Rodney Scott did not ensure that an impartial and independent criminal investigation of that death took place. And I think that has enormous implications as we see an effort to increasingly militarize the border. I've litigated dozens and dozens of cases before the Inter-American Commission and the Inter-American Court during quite violent authoritarian regimes, including in Colombia, Guatemala, Mexico, and now in the United States. And through those decisions, we have been able to expose the truth, and the truth creates momentum for change. And so I think many victims of state violence have been up against a very, very difficult journey, and yet they have prevailed. There has been cases where states have provided reparations for the harm caused. They've accepted responsibility. They have reopened criminal investigations. They have also enacted legal reforms. And if the United States wants to continue to garner the respect of the international community, the United States, whether under the Trump administration or another administration, must abide by its international obligations. If it does not, it has no moral authority to instruct countries like Mexico or Guatemala or other countries around the world to do justice by victims of state violence.